Now we're live.
Oh, there it is.
Oh yes, all of my stuff beeped.
Yep.
That reminds me I should mute all of my stuff. So
Turn on D&D real quick.
I've been living my whole life in Do Not Disturb mode for like the last 2 weeks. It's fantastic.
God damn this lock screen. Shit.
Huawei,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is that lock screen.
I mean, I've missed probably like 2 phone calls, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, I don't
I
get
just saw them
important phone
5
calls.
minutes later anyway.
Like you can't dismiss notifications from it. They just bounce right back.
Yeah, that seems kind of bad.
It's annoying because I live on the lock screen. I don't feel like unlocking my phone half the time.
Okay, so I'll open with the.
Wish there was an easier way to open up the Ninja chat from.
Hey guys, when I have my blinds open, is my face too washed out?
Give your webcam a minute to adjust. You look kind of like a ghost, yeah.
I mean, well, it is. I do live in Seattle, so that's just part of the. How about like that? Is that better with the?
Now your house is green, but it's much more even, and you kind of look like you're coming to.
I mean,
the deep dark corner
like
of the
30
basement.
people watch the video, so it's not that important.
Yeah, the video's not really
Okay,
important.
all right.
too
Well,
much.
that would be a
Don't worry
good.
about it.
I'd rather be able
Yeah.
to see things. So
That's fine. No, you look fine like that. Yeah, all the way open's good.
perfect.
Your house just looks really.
Yeah,
good.
I figure as long as your face is visible, that's kind of what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
After
Okay,
that,
gotcha.
Okay. I'm going to start recording. Make sure the levels look right. Maybe they don't. Test. Okay, maybe they do. All right. Make sure I know what the code is. Okay.
Did you tell them that we're not going to do the international codes on air?
No.
Okay, we'll put them on the website. They'll be okay with it.
Yeah, they'll be fine with that. I'm sure it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Who's not American. Okay, very few people who aren't American listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Just based on our statistics. Anyway, but for those of you who aren't from America or listening, thank you.
Listening.
Yes. This week's Android Police podcast is brought to you by TronSmart. We've got a cool discount code to get 20% off some select TronSmart products. If you look in the description of this episode, or if you're watching the video in the YouTube description, go ahead and check them out. Welcome to the Android Police podcast. I'm your host, David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Cody Toombs.
I'm Jeff Beck.
And I'm Jordan Palmer.
And we all know what this episode's going to be about, at least to start. It's the Galaxy S8, because obviously it is, whether or not you like it, the most important Android phone that will be announced this year. And now it's been announced. And actually, I should say phones, because there are 2 of them. Maybe Ryan could just take us through a brief overview of what are they?
These are phones, David.
That seems accurate.
Well done.
So
All right.
Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, they both have curved screens this year, which we heard a long time ago was a rumor that turns out to be accurate. The regular S8 has a 5.8-inch screen, I believe, which sounds really gigantic. And the Plus is 6.2 inches. Again, that's gigantic. But there's essentially no bezel on this phone. So the actual overall device is very similar in size to last year's phones, which had much smaller screens. So these are the first Snapdragon 835 phones. The traditional Samsung navigation buttons are gone. It is on-screen buttons now. And the fingerprint sensors on the back next to the camera in kind of an awkward spot.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to be ergonomically. That seems uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But and Samsung is, of course, they're talking up their camera stuff, and the screen. They what do they have? What are they calling it?
Infinity display.
Infinity display. I love that. It reminds me of Marvel superheroes. But I mean, these devices look really, really pretty. I think undeniably, even if you don't like what Samsung does with software, they are very pretty. The phones weirdly have a dedicated button for Bixby, which is Samsung's new assistant thing, although I don't think they like to call it an assistant. They have some other name for it. It's like a smart client or something. And that is only going to be supported in a few apps at first, but the idea is that you launch it and you can just talk to your phone and tell it to do things inside the app that you launched Bixby with.
Interesting.
So go ahead.
Okay. I need to know now, is anybody on the podcast going to buy a Galaxy S8?
No.
Not right away. Possibly if it goes on sale later this year.
I'm not. If anything, I'm gonna wait for the Note 8.
And I'm not, because I'm going to review it. So
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't anyway, though.
I expect I'll have
Right now.
I expect I'll have a review unit at some point, and if I didn't, I probably wouldn't. I don't know. I might if it turns out to be a really important phone. I might have bought it, but I mean they're going to sell a lot of them even if we don't buy them. So
It's true. They're going to sell an absolutely ridiculous amount of them. And I think what's interesting this year that I felt like is important to get across is that, yeah, there's tiny little bezels and the screens are a skinnier aspect ratio or wider, however you want to do your logic on that. But the thing is, the phones are big. So the S8 is like kind of a compact Galaxy S7 Edge size. Like it's a little bit smaller than an S7 Edge. Not a lot, but you get more screen real estate, obviously. The S8 Plus is huge. Like it's way bigger than a Note 7. Like substantially taller. A little narrower, sure, but like way taller. Like 10 millimeters.
The width is what makes a device feel large to me, though. If they're able to bring that in from side to side, I think the device feels a lot smaller in hand.
Yeah, I mean that's the most important thing as far as like a phone fitting in your hand and being at least somewhat usable. But I wonder how good Samsung's palm rejection is going to be, because they have had problems with that in the past.
Yeah, that really scared me away from any of the Edge phones in the past. That seems like a real pain in the butt.
You'll be happy to know that Samsung had nothing to say about this during
Hey, back to the Bixby button really quick. Can that be reprogrammed to do anything else, or will it only work?
I'm pretty sure they would like nothing else to ever touch that button. And it's strange to me. It's a very strange decision because like it seriously isn't even going to support most of Samsung's apps at launch.
Yeah,
it just seems like it's useless.
It's like having a dedicated button for like your note-keeping application or something.
Yeah, and they gave us a demo of Bixby at the briefing, and it was all staged where they had these things they knew it could do, and there's not a working version of it available yet. So the demo phones didn't have it. It was just this test phone that ran Bixby. And the sense I got was like, okay, first they showed us a thing where it was a voice command thing where like, okay, you could turn on your phone's hotspot or lower the screen brightness. Okay. And then
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So impressive. I'm sure grandma's going to be all over this, telling your phone to turn down the volume.
Oh my god. We haven't been able to do that for a while now.
Yeah. The next thing they were stoked about is like, oh, it does, because it's AI, so it has to do like it does object recognition.
Oh,
which is to say it's going to be like Google goggles, but worse.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
So they showed it taking a picture of a bottle of wine and then recognizing what the wine was and then like finding the rating on a website for the wine. So I'm sure it'll be able to do that with a few select dozen bottles of wine.
I so do not care about that.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody cares.
So isn't that basically just Amazon's thing?
Oh, they already have that in their application.
Yeah, but it's not by UPC. It's by like text and.
It's just like a picture of the.
Yeah, so it's going to suck significantly more. In other words,
I mean, maybe
Amazon
maybe
has
UPC.
Amazon has done that in the past. So, like I remember they had that. They had an app where you could maybe they still do it. Where you just take a picture of a thing and they find out what it is. But I think that was using human beings someplace in the world to.
Well, I think it's actually built into the Amazon Shopping app right now. You can still take a picture of an item and it will find it for you.
That's the barcode scanner, I think. Yeah, that still does work.
the Fire Phone had a specific thing where it was like walk through and just find something you want, take a picture of it, and it was supposed to try to find it on Amazon and basically order it for you.
Yeah. And so the final part of Bixby is essentially Google Now. So you get like this area, this app you can go to, and it gives you suggestions like you're here, maybe you want to go there. Or like maybe like it might track your fitness and stuff. Probably weather is in there, news. It's
So
supposed
like
to be-
Cortana.
yeah, it's kind of like it's basically like Google Now, where you've got this kind of information hub of things, intelligently catered data for your needs. And Carson asked a question: does Bixby answer questions? No, it is not a query engine. So
You know what I thought was interesting though? When they first announced Bixby, they were very adamant that it wouldn't do like any search stuff. But in the Galaxy S8 announcement stuff, where they talked about Bixby, they're like, and later it'll do some search things, sort of. I feel like they don't know yet what this is going to be.
Yeah, I feel like this is Samsung's parlor trick for the S8. It seems every device they've got to have a gimmick that you can impress your friends with for 5 minutes after you get your new phone, and this is kind of where this one's feeling. What this is feeling like right now.
And I think that they're launching it unfinished. It feels almost Google-esque the way they're putting it out there.
They're mimicking Big Brother there.
They don't quite know what this is for, but they feel very strongly that it should be a thing. I'm pretty sure we're all going to forget about it. The Bixby button, hopefully somebody will figure out a non-root method to remap that to other actions.
Where is it on the phone itself? What part of the device?
It's on the left side under the volume rocker.
Yes.
Oh crap! So you're going to be hitting that every time you want to turn the volume down on the
That's
board.
okay. I actually brought this up. I was like, so do you think people who buy these extra long phones that now have like reachability issues are going to accidentally hit the Bixby key and be like, God damn it, I activated Bixby again. Bixby's the worst.
Yeah, they're going to hit their phone while they're movie theater, and it's going to take a picture of their butt and be like, I found a butt.
Or something much worse than that.
Oh, that's true. You keep your phone in your front pocket, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, so Bixby is a thing, but I think the other kind of question about these phones is how substantially different are they from last year's Samsung phones? And the question, and I'm having a hard time coming up with a good answer.
they're
They're really
Proper keys now.
There's really not much to them other than like the design tweaks.
That's how I feel.
There's one feature that I read about that is actually kind of understated that I'm really excited about, and that is that their batteries last a lot longer. That they're going to deplete over time less, which that's something to be excited about.
They're more durable over time.
Yeah.
If that's true, that would be cool. I don't know.
It's hard to test that claim until you've had a phone for the year, but
Well, even then, it's hard to test unless you're like a battery testing company. But I mean, Samsung reliably quoted that figure to me. So the figure is last year, the S7, S7 Edge, their batteries after a year of typical recharge cycles would be at 80% of their original capacity effectively. The S8 and S8 Plus, after that same year of wear and tear, should be at 95%.
That's substantial.
That's really good.
Huge difference.
Yeah. So the possibility that was raised to me was that, hey, maybe they're just using different batteries this time, and they lowered the voltage. Because if you lower the voltage on a lithium-ion battery, you do increase the cycle life. It could be
also
other
make
stuff.
it less likely to catch on fire.
I don't know. Samsung did take time out in our presentation to talk about the challenges 2016 but everybody's so tired of hearing about it.
Did they give out free like mini Samsung fire extinguishers? That would have been actually kind of clever. So.
Yeah, there weren't any fire jokes made. Samsung doesn't make jokes, by the way.
That's really too bad. There are so many good opportunities there.
There really are. But I think that I echo what Ryan said in that I'm not sure that I see anything in these phones in particular that makes me feel like, oh, this is the big evolution that we all hoped for. I mean, you do get the Snapdragon 835, which is nice. You get some extra features and stuff with that. We already saw one of the cool ones.
The feeling I get from it is it's not quite like the S6 was. Quite that radical shift. from the
Yeah.
old Samsung.
Well, I think that the one thing is that they do deserve recognition for is the industrial engineering and like the actual smartphone making aspect of it. The phones are pretty impressive from that point of view. Like between the bezels, the bigger screens, just kind of the fit and finish that I observed when I was using it. They really nice phones.
So the
Oh,
question I
sure.
always ask to determine whether a device is done well or not is it better to buy the new one for full price, or are you better off buying last year's for half that price?
Ooh.
What would you do?
I don't know enough yet to answer that.
Because
Yeah.
there's S7s popping up for really cheap.
Yeah, I mean they've been available through carriers for $360, $350, so that's
And
half the retail of these new devices.
There was one the other day that was $290. So
See, I would say the original, the regular S7, like I wouldn't want that phone anymore. The screen's too small. The regular S8 gives you so much more screen, and it's like I said, just a little smaller on the S7 Edge. That I feel like if you're coming from a regular S7 or a regular S6, there's probably more compelling reason to upgrade because you're going to get a major ergonomic and screen space advantage that you didn't have. If you're on an S7 Edge, it's harder to say.
well, and now you have proper on-screen keys.
That's true.
That is true. That is a
good.
nice advantage.
I mean, that's
But
something
you also
that.
lose the fingerprint scan on the front. So
That's a good thing.
well, it's
Well,
a weird spot in
if
the back,
it's,
though.
I mean, if it's not in a dumb spot. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
like it might be in a dumb spot.
yeah.
Yeah, that looks especially like. What did you think, David, on the S8 Plus where the fingerprint scanner was?
I didn't
with how
really have
big
much
that
time to
thing
play
is?
with it, and I try not to set fingerprints on demo phones because it's not nice.
Kind of a
I may have done this in the past and upset some people. So
I just meant for like reachability. Like obviously, all of our hands are
we need to
different.
mail you
but-
your finger, David.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Does the PR person just reach out like, could you actually just ship us your finger? We'll send you a label for it,
Yeah.
they
and
have,
we'll
we
send it
have
out to
the
you for it.
technology to fix things, apparently. But I would say that on the S8 Plus, I got the sense that it was a reach. On the regular S8, it seemed okay. I wasn't bothered by it. On the big one, it's a big phone. Like it's really, really tall. Really, really, really
So
tall.
wait, you said the regular S8, it's about the size of a 7
Edge.
Edge.
Yeah.
Let me
A
try
little
to
bit smaller.
fish out this phone. I probably should have planned ahead. But I feel like that's doable.
Yeah, I have an S7 Edge here, and that's like fine. It's a slight reach, but it's a so the thing is though, you're gonna smudge the camera lens cover. I think that's gonna be an issue.
That would piss me off, man, because I hate having smudged photos. Ugh.
The worst, right? I'm almost every time I take a picture now, I always go look at the camera
I'm
lens.
paranoid about it, man. Yeah.
It is. I'm super paranoid too. And so I feel like that would upset me. But I think Samsung's attempt to talk about this has been all focused on
I
like
see it, Ryan.
like you
Like,
should
I don't
use-
I don't know about this. I'm like, this seems really unpleasant.
Yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
best, but it's
try it with the
doable.
middle finger there. See how that works.
No, wait, which side?
Actually,
Which side
that
is
gave
it?
me a great idea for a hero photo, for like a post about this.
I support that. You know why I think Samsung thought this was an okay idea is because they have the heart rate sensor up there. So they're probably like, hey, people have been touching the back of their phone in that spot this whole time anyway. This will be no big deal.
Yeah,
But
'cause everyone
nobody
uses a heart
actually,
rate
but
sensor.
nobody uses it ever. I have never once used it on this phone.
Yeah,
I
it's
forgot
still
they
there
did that.
too. I don't understand why. I guess because Samsung has a very hard time getting rid of things. That's
Oh,
They
very much
do,
a
man.
Samsung theme.
They have to keep every feature ever made. So
They do. They still have
Does-
like Smart Stay and stuff.
I was
And
just
nobody
gonna say,
uses
did they
that.
say
Nobody has used that. Nobody used it when it came out on the Galaxy S2, right? Was it the
No,
S?
I thought it was S4.
I don't even remember what that
S3.
is. What does that do?
S3, I think. I think was S3. And then S4, they added like a bunch of other face and head tracking junk. Luckily,
Yeah, like,
most
almost
of
like
that
the eye
went away.
scrolling.
Like that, most of that stuff went away, thankfully.
So Samsung's defense for the fingerprint scanner replacement is, well, we have these two other ways to unlock your phone. We can scan your eyeballs, or you can, put your face in the phone, and it'll detect your face.
You put your face in the phone.
In the phone, actually,
Yeah,
in the phone.
Directly.
Okay.
Actually, just
Wrap it
insert
around
your
your
face. Yeah.
Put it into a VR viewer
Insert
there.
insert face into Type C port.
It's so versatile.
I will say that the
Yeah.
iris scanner feature, like when I tested on notes, it was really fast and really, really reliable.
Do
But-
glasses
Even with
interfere with it
glasses?
at all?
Glasses only if you're in like direct sunlight. If
Okay.
there's like a glare coming off the lenses, and even then, it still seems to work pretty okay.
What about
And
like monitors? I have more glare off my monitors than
maybe
sunlight.
I'm not sure. I didn't really test it too much with that. It does work in complete darkness, which is an advantage.
Because it's
Yeah.
infrared.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
it have
pretty
a like an infrared light on it, or
Yeah,
how's
that's
that work?
exactly. It works by
Yeah.
bursting a bright infrared flash onto your face.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, when prolonged exposure may not be a good idea, but
It won't
They-
start a fire, but will give you cancer.
yeah, the only thing about that for me has always been when I unlock my phone, I don't want to always be looking at my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of was the killer. I think the issue that Samsung had was they wanted to do that cool in-screen fingerprint scanner that apparently they've been trying to build for years, and then they couldn't. And so they're like, well, I guess
Maybe some vestigial piece of that continues to exist as the home button
Yeah.
that's always
Yeah.
accessible.
the
Yeah.
home button's pretty cool. It's actually a good idea, I think.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
way
So
this-
it's pressure sensitive. That
Yeah.
one spot on the screen.
Yeah, that's
So-
kind of cool.
That's in so the home button, even if you can't see it, even if you have always on display disabled, the home button is always there and accessible because there's a pressure sensitive, like Ryan said, pressure sensitive part of the screen.
What? I didn't hear about that. That's kind of cool.
It's only pressure sensitive in that one spot. And
Like,
so
how big is that spot?
I don't know, home button sized.
It's like the size of a finger, I'm sure.
Smaller
Yeah.
than an elephant.
So the screen's off. Even if you're an app that's in full screen mode and hides the nav buttons, and you hard press in that area, you'll activate the home button. So
Oh,
I
that's
think
kinda
that's
cool.
pretty neat.
Yeah, I think muscle memory, you'd get it down pretty quickly.
Yeah, it feels just like using the iPhone 7's haptic home button, where like it's just gives you that quick clicky burst of haptic
God, I
feedback.
hate that.
I don't love that either, but I think you get used to it.
Yeah, it threw me off when those came in at Target. I was playing with them a lot, and I was like, it would drive me nuts.
It's a little
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, it feels like the phone is shaking you or hitting you or like.
It doesn't feel quite right.
So we
yeah,
got-
yeah.
We've got fingerprint
unreal.
scanning now.
It's not like a button press, not at all.
Oh yeah.
No.
Bill asks, how close do you have to get with the iris scanner? I'd say like a foot and a half, probably within that, because you have to line up your eyes. Actually, I'm like thinking about it. It's probably like a foot. So your eyes have to line up in these two circles on the screen in order for the recognition to work. I think it's
If you want to go and look at the Note 7 review, I know I have a picture of the Note 7 iris unlocking, and it has the guides. I'm sure it's the same thing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the
Interesting.
same deal.
Yeah, that
So-
doesn't seem super convenient when you're out and about holding your phone up and having to. Do you have to hold it still while that happens as well, or is it like you're
No,
walking
actually,
around?
like it is so fast that like it'll get it as you like fly by.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like the Note 7, like you don't have to have it completely level with your face or anything. Like as long as your eyes are like fully open and like pointed at the phone, then it will be able to take them out.
so
I think the opportunity for tongue recognition where you could just lick the screen, that would have been really convenient.
definitely, absolutely. Just probably
Yeah,
licking
but
our
if you get a
mean,
phone that doesn't have an oleophobic coating on it, that would be just.
I mean,
nasty.
Clean the
like-
screen and you get recognition. Same time.
You could probably enroll your tongue as a fingerprint. That would probably work.
Yeah, that might work. So
I wonder if it would. Are tongues like fingerprints? I've
I mean, maybe. This is something we need to test. I think look,
sounds like
when
it would
the-
be true.
when your review unit comes in, you just try to enroll your tongue and see if you can make that work.
what about your
I don't think it would
eyebrow? Because then you could use your eyebrow on the fingerprint sensor. And that'd be, I mean, double eye unlock. That'd be pretty intense right there.
Eyebrow unlock.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody do that. Just
Right-
hey, I'm
right
gonna
on-
unlock my phone.
right on
Whack.
the eyeblash. There you go.
Yeah. So there are some areas where I think Samsung didn't improve these phones that I was a little disappointed to hear about.
Yeah, is the software any different? Is
The
Grace
software
UX
is
any-
basically Grace UX with a new launcher. The new launcher has a swipe up app drawer like the Pixels, and the animation for it's actually pretty cool. Like it's stylish. It looks good. I was surprised by this. Then you have like talked about the navigation buttons, which you can switch the order of. You can switch them to one of two orders: the right order or the stupid Samsung order. Those are your options. And then, like I said, you have that always on home button. But other than that, and then Bixby, which nobody cares, the software is very much like Grace UX. I think they've made some aesthetic modifications versus what you get on like an S7 Edge with Nougat right now, but very similar otherwise. Still, all the legacy crap is in there. There's just all this junk. The phones don't feel. I did not come away from using them feeling like they were very fast. They felt normal, and Samsung runs them at full HD resolution by default out of the box, which is like, I get the reasoning, but it bothers me a little bit. Like I feel like I have a WQHD plus whatever Samsung calls it screen. I would like to have that resolution, please.
So basically, Richard's gonna be mad.
Yeah, but you can obviously change it. But I think the thing is, and I've noticed this since the S7 Edge got the Nougat update, the phone runs so much better in 1080p than it does in the full resolution.
I don't know what is Samsung doing are they downclocking the SoC? Is that why their phones are like this?
I think it's just very aggressive power management where obviously the phone works less hard in 1080p.
Because look, I've been using the G6 and it's a really fast phone and it has a very similar resolution, and it's not like the battery is terrible on that. I don't know why Samsung is so obsessed with this.
Well, I think in the OTA particularly, I think it makes sense because battery life's probably starting to get worse for people as the phone ages. So maybe it makes sense in that way. But my worry then is that the batteries in the new phones aren't any bigger. In fact, the S8 Pluses is smaller than the S7 Edges, and you have much more surface area for the screen. So the S8 Plus has substantially more screen surface area to illuminate than a Note 7 did, and it has the same size battery as the Note 7. And the Note 7 was slow. There's no way around that. So I'm concerned about this. Like Samsung is just content to be like, we have a battery life target or a power consumption target, and we're willing to sacrifice whatever performance is necessary to get there.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Good old Hangouts.
There's been a flurry of keystrokes.
Is everybody still there?
I'm
Yes.
still here. Can you guys see me?
Oh yeah, your video is working again. So
Okay.
I think we're okay.
I reloaded for mine. I could tell it froze.
Yeah, we lost you there.
Okay. Shall we discuss the other big, huge Android news?
We could do that, I suppose. Or we could first talk about our wonderful sponsor this week, TronSmart.
Excellent.
TronSmart has partnered with us on an exclusive discount code for the Android Please podcast. That code is TSM20 off. That's TSM20OFF. TronSmart's got some pretty cool products. If you're coming from an older Samsung phone like the Galaxy S6 or Galaxy S7, you may know that the Galaxy S8 is making the switch to USB Type-C. So you may want to upgrade your gauntlet of various accessories, and TronSmart has some good ones at very good prices. You can save 20% off any of the products we talk about here on the show today. One of the first ones is that you're obviously going to want, maybe it's time to upgrade your portable charger. TronSmart has a great one called the Presto, 10,400 milliamp hours. It supports Quick Charge 3.0, and it charges via USB-C. So it actually charges faster than other portable chargers. It's a great deal. You can get 20% off it using that code, TSM20 off. You also can pick up...
Ryan.
Yes, this is the actual thing. Apparently,
Yes, Ryan has the battery here.
I bought this with my own money. They didn't send
I
it.
actually have one in my backpack as well. I love that battery. So.
Yeah, it seems like a good battery. I kind of want to buy one now too, especially because it charges faster. That's like a huge deal for me because my current ones charge very slowly. The other item that TronSmart has that, if you have a Galaxy S8, maybe a good pickup is their fast wireless charging pad, the chocolate, because it looks like a chocolate bar.
It does not melt. It's important to note that.
It's really affordable. So this thing is already cheap. You can get 20% more off of it. It supports up to 10 watts of wireless charging power, and it's one of the most efficient ones out there. And like I said, it's a great deal. Finally, maybe it's time to upgrade your car charger. TronSmart has a great dual port charger that supports Quick Charge 3.0. And of course, you can also check out TronSmart's USB-C cables and USB-C adapters. So if you don't want to replace your micro USB cables, you can just pick up some USB-C adapters. TronSmart makes them. And like I said, you can pick them up for 20% off using our discount code TSM20OFF. You can find these links to these products, in the description of the show, as well as that discount code I mentioned. So thank you to TronSmart.
I just love their name.
You like
Yeah.
Tron.
You just
I
have
love
Tron.
Tron.
This is a given.
Smart and Tron together. Good choice.
I mean, you probably it's hard to find a bigger Tron fan than me. So
So, as was alluded to before we segued into that sponsored segment, it's time for big Android news because there's a new version of Android, and that's always big news.
Oh boy.
So I don't know. Cody seems to have a lot to say about Android O. So maybe Cody could talk to us about Android O in general, specifically in depth. I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, beautiful pitch. I didn't have that much planned as like an intro, but yeah, you're smiling your ass off over there.
of course it is.
So
David.
yeah, we have a preview. Like Android O's sort of, well, not out, but preview state, and developers are flashing it. Enthusiasts are flashing it. The poor bastards that work at AP are flashing it to their
Everybody's
one and
flashing.
only devices.
I'm not a flasher. I'm not really
Liar.
a flasher.
I do not.
You don't have Artem yelling at you to flash it.
Artem is actually asking everybody to flash all the time.
I know, man. It's
actually
really
not-
awkward.
Yeah.
It's become
very
a
uncomfortable.
hostile work environment,
It
quite
is.
frankly.
Yeah, all of
is.
the teenage kids are flashing. I don't give into that kind of peer pressure, though.
Oh, jeez, Artem.
But
Anyway.
anyways,
So, I mean, if we were to pick major changes in Android O, what do we think, like, out of the gate is most important so far?
picture-in-picture video for all devices.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
will
was
be
going to
cool.
say.
That's a good
As
one.
soon as developers, implement it, that'll be cool. I will enjoy that very much.
I can't wait to
Um,
watch my favorite YouTube videos and then multitask while I'm saying something stupid on Twitter. It's going to be good.
I mean, that's
an
going
epic
to
moment
happen.
right there. Yeah.
I know you're like making a joke, but that's going to be like your evening every night.
It is. It is. Trust me. That's going to be
Every
my
night.
day.
Yeah, even during the day when you're supposed to be working. Okay, and then also the autofill API could make my life a lot easier. I'm hoping that LastPass immediately adds support for that.
The autofill
Yeah.
API is important. I don't use an autofill app because I'm lazy. But I understand this is very exciting for me.
But autofill would allow you to be more lazy once you go through the trouble of setting it up.
Yeah.
It's getting over that initial effort kind of hill into the laziness. That's very hard.
My password manager app doesn't do autofill, so
That's not a
but
very
give
good
it
app.
time. I think it's going to be one of those features where a few people will get obscenely, like, tons and tons of use. This is going to be one of those things Artem will probably spend the next 2 years telling everyone how much
yeah.
he loves it every single
that's
time.
true.
There is a lot of small changes here, man.
Yeah, O was
There are.
like David said before
There
the
are.
show. O is kind of like a convenience update if there ever was one. There's so many things here that aren't like individually big, but they could have like a constant growing effect of just making Android a little smoother and easier to use.
like the compact persistent notifications since I run Tasker all the time, that's gonna make me really happy.
Oh my god, yes.
Like
I-
instead of having to go in and block the app from notifications, it's gonna. Like, I'm surprised it took them this long to do that.
Yeah. Okay, and a thing that's not like super sexy or fun to talk about, but apparently is going to be very important is the way they're limiting background processes in O. So you should have improved battery life, even if
Yeah,
there
I don't really
are
understand
apps.
how this works and how it's an improvement. I mean, I trust that it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Swift key's not going to lag anymore. That's what I want to know.
No,
that
Swift will lag
not do
forever.
it. No, I'm a little reluctant to see how this actually plays out because I've already seen a little bit of weird behavior on a device that I've got it flashed onto, and reading some of their descriptions, it does not sound like it's going to play well with older apps. There's problems.
I think that's, but you know what? I can applaud Google for ripping the legacy band-aid off and just saying, like, listen, deal with it. Either
if there's an app that's older that needs to run in the background and you've installed it for some reason, you probably would prefer it to just be kind of broken and not destroy your battery life than to be left alone to mess up your battery.
And Google does have the kind of escape hatch there and the ignore battery optimizations option.
Yeah.
So I would assume that's related in some way, that like they would not, it would exempt it from this new behavior.
Somebody asked if there are any hints of the name in the preview, and it's too early for us to trust anything Google says.
Yeah,
they will lie to us. They will lie to our faces. They will make jokes. They will troll us incessantly. We cannot trust them.
Somebody's trying to tell me it looks like an orange creamsicle, and I'm like, it could just as easily be like 3 FiestaWare plates. Like it's there's no divining at this point. Google probably has no idea what they're going to call it.
Yeah, and even if they know, actually going to share anything, if anything, they'll dance away from the name just because.
Yeah, I'm sure Hiroshi Lockheimer will be torturing us all on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm sure he's
5
already
months.
come up with several vague tweets that he can post to mess with everybody.
I'm sure.
Actually,
he's gonna post random pictures of things that start with O.
Yeah.
I bet come IO, they're going to drop so many like fake hints, and there's going to be so many fans who are watching like their watch faces and what like the little insignia on a pin sticking out of their pocket is going to be, and it's going to be so bad.
Google and the low key troll. They live for it.
You drinking out of a mason jar there, David?
I am. I'm very hip like that. But I think Android O so far, I've got it on a Pixel. And so the Pixel does have, there's some thematic changes. There's a brand new settings app, which is interesting. Google got rid of the dedicated support tab because that really didn't make sense in the first place. I think Google put the support tab in there, operating under the illusion that normal people bought its phones. It was I think a very optimistic change to the interface.
I really feel bad for the support crew there, man.
Yeah,
very, very specific questions.
I'm sure they do get some really awful.
Yes, so I'm sure people like telling, look, I was on XDA earlier today, and they told me.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, there are a lot of changes. You should probably go to our feature spotlight series because we are documenting all said changes. So many of the changes.
Yes, it is
things like
easily
aptX
accessible.
Bluetooth streaming.
Artem sure was excited about that custom key mapping thing for system UI
Yeah,
tuner.
he would be.
He likes it because it's broken.
I think that's why he keeps me around too.
That's awesome.
He's like, no, I found like the mappings for all like the things it can do, and it's like, shut up, Artem. It's not meant to work right now.
I was so excited posting the key codes.
Post the key codes, and people need to know.
If there's any feature that's not sticking around in that screen, it's that. Like that
exactly. That's going away.
Oh man, don't let
Without
him.
a doubt.
I kind of got excited to go back to like the CyanogenMod mod style where you could have the left and right arrows, but I tried it. It was not.
I don't need that. Like I can move the cursor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just realized I've been pronouncing Cyanogen wrong for like ever. So
How did you pronounce it?
Yeah, how did you pronounce it?
Cyanogen, I think, is how I
No,
pronounce
that's
it.
how
I've
I
said
say
it.
it too. Cyanogen.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
all right.
exactly how I said it.
That sounds right.
Very
It's
different.
Andrasta now, so nobody cares.
That's
But
And
And
lineage.
also, like it's a made up word anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
that's true. It is a
But
made-up
like
word.
Huawei is pretty much made up. I'm pretty sure too. So
I'm pretty sure that's actually just another language. So
no, it's made up. We're gonna
Okay.
stick with that. It's who
Okay.
we. So.
I mean that's mildly racist, but okay.
Huawei's easier to say than Xiaomi.
That's true.
That is true. So I think Android O right now we're so early on with what we're saying, and it's so not done. Obviously, I think we're gonna probably see bigger changes down the road because that's Google probably is putting the developer features out in front as far as they can. Obviously, that makes sense because it's a developer preview,
Yeah.
and so they
You
want to get
can't,
those big platform changes out to developers now.
You can't even install it through the beta program yet.
Yeah, it's obviously not meant for consumers, and so consumer changes obviously can wait till the last minute to come in.
Yeah, I would imagine at I/O they'll talk more about useful features that might be in O.
Yeah, they could. I think that's likely.
I'm
There'll be a
not sure
what's
there's
new in
going to
Android O
be
talk.
that many more.
Really?
Like, there obviously are more features, but we're not going to get too many big features.
I don't think there will be a lot, but I think there's probably something out there that Google plans to have in O that they haven't talked about yet.
Oh,
something
yeah.
that they think people will respond to.
But what I mean is a little different. I think a lot of stuff, it's not going to come so much as an OS version update as just more features coming through Play services.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of stuff coming through the Google app. They started
possible.
that 3 years ago, whenever 4.3 came out, and it's just been on that same track, like direction that Android is going. The OS is getting more stuff, but the stuff's going to start getting pretty small.
How much more does it need? I mean, I'm running out of ideas of things I could even want them to add at this point in time.
Well, I guess the question is, I think in terms of Android's major development is, does Google forever see it as just being this thing for phones or wearables? I mean, the wearables thing is already questionable. Does
the
Google
Android
see
things.
There have
Android?
been so many new devices released in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
Do they
I
think
mean-
that we're going to move into laptops and convertible devices with Android, or is Google now back to being content with how Chrome OS handles things there? And I think that's going to very much shape how Android changes as an operating system.
Yeah, I mean, I think Google probably expects that Android will one day be the operating system that runs on our neural implants.
Yes, that's probably a fair point. I think that the other thing, I think I agree with Cody that if the focus is smartphones, that Android probably will see more iterative kind of developments. But I would hope the part of me that wants to believe that then the more daring and experimental changes come to Google's hardware versus Android as an operating system, where Google builds a new phone and they do cool new things with it that they won't share with anybody else. But that's possibly very wishful thinking.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Android is a pretty mature platform now. I mean, it's been
For sure.
But the first consumer release was 2008, right? So we're coming up on a decade of Android being a thing.
You're making me nostalgic right now. My goodness.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a good discussion of Android O. We have some product reviews we want to get to this week, and I think I'll let Ryan kick it off with the king of the budget smartphones, the Moto G5 Plus.
So if you are going to buy a cheap phone, like for whatever reason you don't want to do a carrier payment plan, or you need something cheap and unlocked you can use everywhere, you should buy the G5 Plus, because I can't think of another phone in that price range that is worth purchasing when that phone exists. I mean, it is I think it's $230 for the base model, and that has Snapdragon 625, 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage. It's just it's a solid all-around phone for a good price. And as usual, Motorola has optimized the software pretty well. So even though the hardware is not super impressive, it feels perfectly responsive. There's no weird lag any place. It runs NuGet out of the box. It has the Moto the Moto extra features like Moto Display, Moto Actions. They haven't really added anything new to that recently, which is kind of a bummer. They've sort of stopped innovating on software. They did add this one button navigation mode this time, which is kind of interesting. So it gets rid of the software nav buttons, and then you use the fingerprint sensor as the home button, and then you swipe left for back and right for overview, and it is super awkward when you start using it. But I actually kind of liked it. I don't know if I would use it full time, but it was interesting. And it's kind of telling, like, that's the most interesting thing Motorola has done with software in the last few years. So I don't know, they might want to step up their game. Because right now the software on the Moto G5 Plus is good by virtue of the fact that it's mostly stock. Like, they don't screw around and make arbitrary changes. So I mean, it's the camera not great. It's lower resolution than last year. I think the results are pretty similar. That's still one of those places where you definitely feel the difference between a phone that costs $600 or $700 and one that costs $200.
So what I heard actually about the camera, and I'll stop you just for a second, is that they removed the phase detection autofocus and the laser autofocus.
Yes, it does not have laser autofocus. It has some sort of thing that I couldn't get them to really explain what they mean. They call it dual pixel autofocus.
Oh, okay. So that's the same thing Samsung has. Okay, I remember this now. So actually, sidetrack. The way this works is that the pixels on the actual sensor are used for the autofocus, and that's how the Samsung Galaxy S7 focused crazy fast last year, and that's why it doesn't have laser or face detect. Actually, no,
Right.
it has face detect.
Right.
But,
I mean, but this, I think, is it's not using like as many pixels as Samsung's.
I heard it was the same sensor. So
it might be the same sensor, but I don't know if the software is the same.
I'm actually positive it is the same sensor.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's fast-ish. It's not as fast as the Galaxy S7 to focus.
Yeah, I mean, the image signal processor is not going to be as fast, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it focuses fine, but no laser autofocus, and I'm not really concerned about that. I mean, just in general, the processing for photos on the Moto G5 is not as good as on
that's what I've heard.
expensive phone. So, but like if you need a cheap phone, like just buy that one, easy.
I was gonna say it's probably better than the Honor 6X just based on software alone.
Yeah, and see, it seems like there's so many good things about this phone, and then the camera's like subpar, but it's always been Motorola's thing with the G series.
Oh, yeah, and no NFC because reasons.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the camera thing's like halfway intentional, like where they have the higher.
I was going to ask that.
Oh, you know what is really interesting though? So just like last year, this phone is unlocked and it works on both CDMA and GSM networks. And the phone that Motorola sells for like 3 times as much does not work on CDMA because Verizon.
Yeah,
because they have the Droid phones.
Well, it's good to see they're keeping on with the CDMA thing in the G series. I was a little afraid that they might cave in the pressure or something.
Yeah.
But I would say the one thing about this phone that I find very hard to shake. God, it's so ugly. It's
it is. It's not the most attractive phone. I'm gonna find it.
Do you have it there?
Especially, okay, I will admit
Okay,
I was using a gold one in MWC, and it was so bad.
I mean, I think the pictures that I took for the review look better than a lot of the press promos. The big, huge camera module on the back is pretty ugmo. I think that's like its worst feature.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, I don't know. I think that like this weird kind of outline around the back, like inside this, like this is all metal, and then it has plastic around the rim.
Oh yeah.
But like having the metal frame, like it gives it a little bit more heft. It feels a little more, less flexy. I don't think it looks bad in person. I think it looks very okay. I
like the look of the G4 so much better, even though the G4 felt so cheap.
Yeah, it did. Like it had the soft touch plastic back that just like peeled off. So it just sort of moved and was like,
okay. I mean, I guess the thing about it is the way the G5 looks makes me feel very Lenovo vibes.
Yeah.
It does.
Blue. I mean, look at that. Let's
I mean, the fingerprint sensor is real big.
Yes.
Is it a faster accurate one?
It is very fast. It is almost 1+3 fast.
Yes, I do remember that from testing. It was very quick.
So, yeah, and you know what's funny? So, like, right on the back here, where Motorola should have the dimple, they have a little raised Motorola logo. And it's kind of nice because it gives you a little bit, it's something to grip with your finger. So it's like almost as good as a dimple, but like, why don't they just put the freaking dimple back on their phones?
The dimple is dead. I guess. I don't know.
Could it be the battery doesn't?
I wonder if it was like a late strategy branding decision where maybe some of the phones would have been Lenovo or something. I don't know. Yeah. But speculation. So would you, I remember, so you don't recommend the $300 version?
No, just because, $300. And the only thing you're really gaining is you get 4 gigs of RAM. I mean, you get 64 gigs of storage too, but they have micro SD card slots. So like, I don't know if you need to really it's not like 64 gigs is like a mountain of storage. Like you can probably make do with 32 gigs and get a big SD card and just get the version with 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, it might not multitask as well. The version I had to test is the expensive one with 4 gigs of RAM. So I mean, I don't know for sure how the cheap one performs, but I don't imagine it'll be dramatically different.
Yeah, I think that it mostly comes down to chipset on that. The RAM helps for certain things, obviously, but
I mean, you're probably not going to be playing like any big games that you need to keep in memory for a long period of time on this phone because it's not like the chip is not super good.
I think if you're moving up to $300, you're in that area where older high-end phones make more sense.
Yeah, you're $60 more than that. You can get yourself an S7.
Yeah, and I think that's a much better bet if you're really weighing the value equation hard.
Yeah.
So the other device that we reviewed this week is the LG G6, which I have a Verizon version of here in black, which I think is the only color worth buying. I don't like the silver one. I have a silver one as well.
You were very, very strong with that opinion on your review there.
Yeah, I really don't like the way the silver one looks, especially on the front, the way it borders the screen. It just bugs me because you get that little black mini bezel between the screen and the colored foil under the glass. And it just kind of takes away, I think, from the magic of the low bezel display. That and it kind of blinds you in direct sunlight. So that's not very fun either. It's also available in white, but I don't think that color's come to the US. I think you only get silver or black here.
Yeah, the black one is it's the best.
It is easily.
Always go for black.
I would say that, if you get this phone though, probably put a case or a skin on the back because it's going to get scratched up and it gets fingerprinty really fast. But it looks nice. So I've been testing the phone for a while now. I've had the pre-production version since MWC, so for a month, and I've been using quite extensively, and then I got the Verizon version. I think LG built a pretty good phone overall. I will say that to get my gripes out of the way, I don't like the way the cameras process images. I think it looks ugly and fake and not natural, and it looks bad on big monitors. Yeah, it's like it paints things.
Yeah, that picture of the rocks was shockingly bad that you posted on the article there.
It was gross. And so I really don't like the way LG does that. Granted, I know that many people completely disagree with me and think these are great cameras. And so I think it goes back to what you want out of the camera.
Can you shoot in manual mode in order to override their filters?
No, not the processing. The processing is always going to be there.
That's just the way it does.
That's just the way it is. Okay.
Although, I mean, can you do raw photos?
Yeah, but I'm never going to do that. So who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not either, but it's a thing that I'm sure some people will do.
I refuse to allow any smartphone manufacturer out of their processing technique for the fact that the phone can capture in DNG format. That's not fair. I'm not going to process my photos so they look the way I want. That's ridiculous. The other things about this phone, battery life's pretty good. I found on my test devices at least. Above average is what I would call it. It's not crazy good. It's not even necessarily as good as the Pixel XL, but it's solid. At least Galaxy S7 Edge Snapdragon version last year, good. Better than you would expect. The ergonomics of the device, the small bezel makes it really easy to hold. If you put a Pixel XL side by side with this phone, the Pixel XL and the G6 have basically comparable screen surface area. The G6 is way smaller, way easier to hold, way easier to put in your pocket. So if you're concerned about that, that's definitely an advance that LG's made over existing phones, and one that I think you'll also see when people start talking about the Galaxy S8 when review units go out as well. It has a Snapdragon 821 processor, so no 835. Still feels plenty fast. I would say it doesn't feel as consistently smooth as the Pixels do, and it doesn't feel quite as like manic rapid fast as the OnePlus 3T. But that's probably down to animation speeds and stuff to some extent as well. The screen is good. It's an IPS LCD. Brightness outside is, I would probably say, a little worse than the high-end Super AMOLED panels out there right now. IPS LCDs just kind of have some inherent disadvantages. Indoors, though, it looks crazy bright.
How does it do in really low light? That's actually one of my biggest frustrations. Like,
Doesn't get low enough.
Yeah, they don't get low enough.
Yeah, it's always been the problem with the LCDs because the backlight can't get down that low and illuminate the screen in a way that looks acceptable. So there's that. There's no light bleed that's appreciable on either of my units, which was a problem on the G5 and the V20 because of their designs. So that's good.
How's software?
The software is, so LG, I would say, takes a hand to Android that is functionally about as light as HTC's. Aesthetically, it's ugly. The places where you can tell LG's changed the way something looks, you can tell they've been there. Because they use the white and bright gray palette for most of their aesthetic modifications, and I don't like it at all.
I've never liked the look of a LG phone or an LG phone software.
Easily my least favorite UI.
It looks corny.
Yeah, it looks like young teenage girl. That's what I feel every time I look at their UI. So.
It feels very Korean.
Yes,
is how I would describe it. So, which would make sense. But as far as LG, if LG decides a feature doesn't work or the people aren't using it, they kill it usually. So it's not like Samsung where you have you don't have like the archive of LG's bad software ideas living on your phone every year.
Except for the rear mounted buttons.
Yeah, those I am kind of
people like those, right?
I liked the rear mounted buttons.
I liked the rear mounted volume rocker.
Yeah.
And when they got rid of that, it's kind of sad.
I have a G4 here someplace that I refuse to sell because I just like to look at it sometimes.
I loved that in the G2. That was like one of my favorite things about the G2 is how natural that felt. Versus instead of like rearranging my hand to hit the side buttons. Yeah.
I will say that the volume buttons on the G6 are mounted too high up.
That's frustrating.
That consistently when I was using it, and they're just too far up there.
So do you feel like you graded the G6 a little easier based on how awful the G5 was last year, or?
No, because I felt like LG actually seemed to have listened to all the negative things people said about their phone last year. Like the negativity was so unanimous that they couldn't ignore the complaints.
This is a total turnaround for LG's design. Like this phone has a non-removable battery and a glass frame.
And I mean, I'm totally cognizant of the fact that everybody kind of built up this narrative around the phone where like it was going to be the comeback device for LG. I don't know if I want to call it a comeback because comebacks are about like making good on probably sales. And I don't know if that's going to work out for LG. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, like this is the phone they should have made last year.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. That's probably a good description overall.
Could have jumped over Samsung with those little mini bezels there, but now it's just the same thing on both devices.
Yeah, now, even though the G6 is objectively a very good phone, it's going to go up against the Galaxy S8 that has some of the same things done better.
Yeah. And I think there are some areas where LG misstep. For example, the Galaxy S8 starts at 64 gigabytes of storage. The G6 is only available with 32.
Oh, come on.
How is that still happening?
What the hell?
How much does it really cost to manufacture to bump from 32 to 64?
And yeah, I harped on them for that. And then I think that LG missed an opportunity to make the battery just a little bit bigger. It's 3,300 milliamp hours, which is reasonably good size given the screen surface area. But given it has the same surface area on the display as a Pixel XL, it's still smaller than that phone's battery. And I think that 3,500, 3,600 milliamp hours would have nudged it into like this phone gets great battery life territory. Whereas right now it's like, it's good, but as we all know, battery life generally doesn't get better over time.
No.
The other misstep, I feel like LG is usually in the last year and a half or so been super on top of recent OS versions. They've always tried to ship with the latest version of Android. And when I talked to them at MWC and asked them several times, is this phone going to ship 7.0, which is what they were running our test versions, or 7.1? And they said eventually, after some significant discussion amongst themselves, 7.1. And I was like, oh, okay, good. I'm excited to hear that. Because I at the time was already thinking, Samsung's definitely going to ship with 7.0. Everybody knows that's going to happen because they're Samsung. Well, the Verizon retail unit I have is running 7.0. I think, Ryan, your T-Mobile one is running 7.0.
Yes.
And then I emailed them to ask, and they're like, nope, it's going to ship with 7.0. It's just one of those little things. Like LG, you had an opportunity just to stand out a little bit more. And
Yeah,
then
at least
you
with
didn't.
the purists.
Yeah, the enthusiast crowd.
I doubt
Yeah.
anyone else will notice. So
I still think it's a good phone, and the fact that they're coming in $100 under Samsung this year is, it's outside the US relevant. In the US, probably less relevant given the way most people buy their phones now. But
yeah, they've got to be feeling better than HTC at least right now. So
yeah, the U Ultra is awful. But the overall good phone. And like I said, so the software is ugly, but minimal modifications overall functionally. Android works like you expect it would. And so I think that LG built the phone that we all knew they could if they just focused on certain aspects of the phone. And so overall, I'd say I'm happy with it. And I actually like the longer display. You do get more content on the screen, and it makes virtual nav buttons less of a sacrifice. At least for me. So yeah, I enjoyed the G6.
in hand field, which do you like more, the S8 or the G6?
See, I haven't held the S8 enough to really know. But the thing is, I would say that the S8's curved screen, I've never been that much of a fan.
It makes
I
the phone
always
feel
dealt
very
with
slippery to
it.
me.
I never loved it.
No.
Yeah, I never got into it when I used that Mi Note 2. That was a curved screen. It drove me nuts.
Well,
Yeah.
At least Samsung has those beautiful case options that should make the phone easier to hold when it releases today.
Oh, God. If you haven't checked out the post that Richard put up yesterday or day before of the two-piece Galaxy S8.
They are so ugly. I couldn't even
God.
believe they were real at first.
Man, I've been trying to figure out like all week what they remind me of, and it looks like they have kids' band-aids stretched across the bottom of the phone. That's finally what I came up with. Like,
That's
someone
a
put it-
good description.
Yeah.
It's
they're so
really
bad.
weird. They're really bad. But you'll probably, so this is interesting. I've always kind of felt that you never see the Samsung first-party accessories in America. I think they're on their website, and I think that's it, because the carriers don't want them. Because
Yeah,
they
it
want to
looks like
sell
putting
those
a bikini on
high-margin
a dart.
third-party ones.
Yeah, do you remember? Remember when Samsung announced that case that had the keyboard that would just fold?
Oh, they
over
have
the
another
screen?
one.
What?
You guys haven't
How did
seen this?
I've never seen this. No.
Wait, they did that again this year?
Yeah, of course. Right?
I-
Of course
I
they
didn't
did it.
Case?
I haven't
Like,
seen this.
BlackBerry style.
I have an
Why-
actual picture
why-
of it.
Why didn't you write a whole post about that?
Seriously, yeah.
I didn't care.
Well, but it's like amazing that it exists.
Hold on, let me just
They-
find the picture
They
real quick.
can't have sold more than 5 of these last time.
Man, do you remember the
Sure
trend a
is.
couple of generations ago where it was super popular to have the flip screen on the front and only a portion of the screen would light up? Is that still a thing or has that died?
I don't think Samsung still makes those cases.
Okay, I've got a really crappy angle of it. but I got it. So let me just go ahead and screen.
Hey Jeff, Asus still does it, I think.
Asus still does it. Yeah, it was a very popular trend there for a couple
Yeah,
of
LG
cycles.
had the circle, and then the S view.
SVU cases is Samsung.
I hated those two.
Yeah, those were useless.
It's always so greasy. It's got your oil all over
Yeah.
your now.
Okay.
Okay,
what
so
is-
this
there we
is
go.
a close-up of the
Oh my God.
Oh my
S8
god.
one.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's a
I
thing.
don't understand why the back of the case is facing. Oh, because do you like pull it off?
I think you
and,
detach it.
What? How does that even work?
yeah.
I think you detach it and then you clip it on the front when you want to type.
Okay.
Or you just type with the screen facing away from you. And you hope you're really accurate. You're
it's,
typing.
it's real bad. So
Oh,
they are still doing
Samsung.
that. I guess so. The other thing we didn't talk about when we talked about the S8. So you've got two. I guess. Well, you've got the one accessory that's worth talking about. Decks. So what do we think of this? So I saw it demoed.
I just don't understand
I think
why.
I think
Why?
it's
Exactly.
it's a very nice demo that nobody is ever going to use because
Yeah.
they don't want to. Really, not really.
So
The only place I could think about. Sorry. Go ahead.
Samsung's pitch, so we can get this out there, because I said on Twitter that it seemed a reasonably well polished and neat idea that has no realistic use case. Samsung, of course, when they presented to us, had a use case, and their use case is in the enterprise. And
Are we
the
talking about
idea
a
that
spaceship here or the
that
business
in
world?
the enterprise, people they run around
the
and they switch desks, and they live their fast-paced enterprise lifestyles, and so they can have their deck stock, and they can plug that deck stock into their empty workstation that they're working at this week because they live such a jet-setter lifestyle, and they can have a desktop for their phone. And I want to know what enterprise environment doesn't have a damn desktop computer attached to the monitor anyway.
And why wouldn't you have your laptop with you?
Are we talking about the USS Enterprise? Is that what?
I guess so, because I
Yeah,
can't
it's like a
imagine
little
a
computer.
regular enterprise where this makes sense.
Actually, I did think of a use case scenario where it would be good. I work in a hospital, and I can't bring my own computer with me, but I could plug that into one of the monitors that I'm working on, and then be able to access stuff that is blocked by the hospital.
But think about this: you have to have access to power. You have to have access to the HDMI cable.
Oh,
And you need peripherals, right? You need a keyboard and mouse.
And you need somewhere to stick this dock, because it's got to like sit somewhere. And it's also not it's not like a tiny thing. It's not something you're going to put in your pocket. You got to put this in your bag.
And is this ever going to be a better idea than just using your phone like a phone?
And isn't it like $150? You could buy a Chromebook for that money.
I think the rumor price is $150. It's probably going to be somewhere $100 to $150. I don't think the pricing is out yet. But yeah, Samsung is very exclusively positioning this toward enterprise and businessy people. But in terms of travel, though, I don't ever see how that works.
No, because if you go someplace you're going to need to do any sort of work, you'll take a computer with you.
You're not going to carry a monitor, keyboard, and mouse around.
What about for multimedia use? So you're at the hotel and you want an easy way to view all of the stuff from your phone on the TV.
But remember,
you
you need a mouse and keyboard.
That's true.
You can't just control it with your phone.
You can't use a touchscreen once it's in the dock. You can't
No, it's completely. It's in a projected mode.
It's like Continuum or Ubuntu Touch.
I'm really hardcore.
Every time you get down to use case, you're just like, oh no, they screwed that up.
That screwed that up. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way about it as I did with like the Ubuntu Touch and the Microsoft Continuum thing. It's cool for a couple minutes, but I'm never without a desktop, a laptop.
Yeah, it's much more of something that we can do rather than something that you should do sort of feature.
Yeah. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I looked at what they did and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Because it is. You can run Microsoft Word and you can run Citrix and stuff. So you can do virtualization for Windows. I don't know how well it's going to run, but you can do it. So it's interesting. Like, it seems like they took the kind of continuum concept and made a not totally bad alternative. But at the same time, Continuum gets a lot of hype, but I've never, ever seen anybody say Continuum's a reason to buy a product or that it's even useful. So it's more that people like the concept. They like the futurism of the idea. not that they necessarily have any use for it.
Well, it's such
People
an edge
for
use
years have
case.
been predicting that this is going to be like the future of how people like compute. They're going to carry around one small device and it'll make their entire like digital profile portable, and they carry it with them, and you walk up to any monitor or keyboard and magically just everything's there. It sounds so good. It's so pretty on paper, and
If we lived in a Deus Ex kind of world, then yeah, I could see that happening.
If we lived in a day before cloud computing too, I mean, you can log into a Chrome browser and take care of most of your work these days without having to deal with any extra dongles or all that crap. So
Yeah, I feel like my answer to Dex is always like, hey man, Chromebooks, people buy them and they like them. They buy a lot of them actually.
Yeah, they do.
And it seems like they're doing pretty good.
On
yeah,
Amazon.
they're cheap enough. I've thought of buying a second one just to like leave in the bathroom downstairs. It's just they're that handy.
Bathroom Chromebook. Yes.
The bathroom Chromebook. Make sure you wash your hands, guys.
That is economies of scale in action. Yeah,
Also
that's
Blogger
the
Life.
struggle I've had too. That and Windows all-in-ones are very cheap now and generally are okay. So
Yeah, I mean, I think like a OS on a stick would honestly be more useful than this particular thing. And how often are you at a workstation where you're on your computer but you don't want to have your phone accessible as well to write a quick message?
Okay, that I agree with. Because even if you get the same notifications and apps on the desktop experience, you don't interact with those apps in the same way on the desktop. Like if you're doing text messaging, you know, or anything where the app's not going to scale well to a desktop experience, you're going to prefer to do that on your phone because we've got those behaviors now.
You could just default to using Android Wear for everything because that's
that'd
awesome
be wonderful.
solution.
Yeah, I killed myself only within 2 weeks.
Bill asks a good question. What if you get a phone call?
So I think it would route through the desktop. The Samsung demoed the audio is still handled by the phone if the monitor doesn't have audio capabilities.
Okay.
So the monitor would, if the monitor had speakers, for example,
So,
you
like-
would get the call audio out through the monitor
It
probably.
just like goes into speakerphone mode basically.
Yeah.
If the monitor has audio. If it doesn't, okay, that's okay. I understand what you're saying now. I don't know. I'm not sure how that's actually handled.
Yeah. Man, the
I would
sad
have
thing
to
is
test it.
a
And
lot
I
of really
feel
smart
like
people worked on it a
Samsung's
long
not going to
time.
be destroying a lot of Dex review units.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, just a hunch there. All right.
Tell them you're
So-
from the enterprise.
Yes. All right. So we are running a little long this week. I think we'll conclude it here. I'd like to thank our sponsor this week, TronSmart, once again. If you check out the description of this episode, you can get some great deals on TronSmart products. Some of them are very useful. Actually, all of them are very useful. It just depends on what you want. TSM20 off is the code, TSM20 off. You get 20% off any of the items listed in the description, and we'd appreciate if you would do that. Thanks again.
So
for
would
listening.
TronSmart, yeah.
Yes, TronSmart would appreciate it too. They would actually probably appreciate it more. Thanks again for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Okay, I'm going to stop the broadcast.